All right, good. We're good in both places. All right, greetings, everybody. This is Dr. Keith Fairclough. I'm going to get back into doing live streams. I know you might see me doing live streams with my friend Gordon Watt on Boundaries and Brotherhood, but I'm going to start doing live streams on my own as well. Because there's some thoughts come to my mind. I'm not stopping that, but some thoughts come to my mind that I think it's important for us to discuss. Now, I don't know if it's going to go on for an hour or how long it's going to go on for, but in any case, let's just kind of hop into it. I don't like all this preamble stuff. So I just finished a session with a client, and we were talking about some men's issues and things like that. And one of the things we were talking about was emotional expression and how we are conditioned as men to not express emotions from a very young age, which we hear like, don't cry, suck it up. It's not that big of a deal. You're being a female, so on and so forth, right? And we're conditioned as time goes on, over and over and over again, right? And then, no, Boosh, good to see you, man. um, we're conditioned as time goes on over and over and over again to not feel. But as we were kind of breaking it down, as we were breaking it down, oh, that's me. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. There we go. That should be better now. That should be better. All right. So if you're on TikTok, I apologize about that. I had to turn my mic on. It should be working now. So as we were talking, right, we were talking about how we as men are conditioned to not express emotions. We're conditioned to not feel, suck it up, stop being weak, be a man, all these things. Right? We get this message, right? But then the crazy part is all of us as men, we want to feel. We literally police each other to not feel, but yet deep down, we all want to feel. That's why I call this one the elephant in the room, as far as the elephant we keep in the room. Because the fact of the matter is that we all as men, every single one of us, right, when we sit by ourselves, when it's dark, when we're alone and we're feeling hurt and we're feeling sad and we feel like nobody cares or things along those lines, when we feel that, well, we don't want to express that because we're not supposed to. And then when someone else expresses it, we'll actually shut it down a lot of times, or we'll allow someone to shut it down, because then there might be some guy that might be like, overly aggressive and things like that, and be like, oh, that's weak. Stop being a punk. Stop being this. Stop being that. Yada, yada, yada. And then we won't speak up and say, hey, man, chill. Let that man speak. It's okay for him to feel what he's feeling right now. A lot of times we won't do that. A lot of times we'll just kind of sit back and be like, oh, shoot, well, I don't want that to happen to me. And especially because when we're younger, we've seen that. We've seen what happens when someone opens up and they share what they're thinking and feeling, and how they're torn apart, and how they're bullied, and how they're called all types of names and ostracized. And as much as us, we want to go out and reach out to that guy, our friend or whoever the person is, stick up for them, we're terrified that we might be that next person. And so what ends up happening is, as time goes on, we then become the police, the emotional police, where we don't do that, right? Now, we may not be as rough as the example I just gave, but we 110% will tell our kids, hey, suck it up. It's not that big of a deal. Stop crying. Boys don't cry. We'll perpetuate the same thing, where on the inside, we're struggling. On the inside, it's like, dang, I wish someone would just reach out and ask me how I'm doing. I wish someone would just take time to sit with me and just allow me to kind of just get things out. I wish someone would validate that, yeah, no, it's okay that you feel alone, man. It's okay that you feel hurt. It's okay you feel like you're overwhelmed. It's okay you're scared. Like, it's okay you feel that. It would be great if we were able to do that. But unfortunately, we've been so conditioned, so conditioned to not feel. And not even just us as men, even women have been conditioned to condition men to not feel. Right. And this is, when I say this, I'm not saying that this is to point blame or fingers or anything like that. If you ever seen any of my other videos, then I'm not here to tear down any side. I'm not here to tear down men. I'm not here to tear down women. That's not what we're about. I'm here to uplift us all, right? They say, what is a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm trying to be that rising tide so we can all get up there. But what I'm saying is there is a conditioning that takes place, and the conditioning even happens with the women, where when a man starts opening up and sharing his thoughts and feelings, it's foreign to her. It's strange to her. She's looking back to her templates of what a man was supposed to look like, and he didn't share his feelings. He didn't open up. Maybe she came from a two-parent home and her father, he wasn't open up. He wasn't sharing. He was just strong and that was it. Maybe that's what it is, right? So when she sees her man, having a hard time emotionally, she's thinking like, oh, shoot, that's not the way men are supposed to be because she's been conditioned. And so ultimately what we need to start doing is to break out of that social norm and stop keeping this elephant in the room, right? When I see us keeping the elephant in the room, we need to stop saying to ourselves and to others like, hey, we shouldn't be feeling. We need to be able to say it's okay to feel. And what happens a lot of times, is we're scared to feel, us as men, because for one, we haven't really had experience doing it. And then for two, a lot of times because we haven't had experience doing it, we don't know how to regulate it. Our high is going to be super high, our low is going to be super low. And so because we don't know how to regulate it, it's like it's easier just to be stoic. It's easier just not to feel anything. It's easier just to kind of keep pushing forward. It's easier to be quiet because I don't know how to articulate myself. And when I start articulating myself, I get called weak, or I get called stupid, or I get called dumb, and whatever. And I'll tell you this right now, in working with a lot of men who are coming into sessions and they're having an opportunity to start opening up and sharing, I can't tell you how many times they'll say like, I don't even know if what I'm saying makes sense. Right. And I'm like, no, it makes sense, man. Go ahead. Keep sharing. You're good. That's was something that I've seen happen time and time again. And the crazy part is, men, I'll let you guys know this right now. What we need, right, is a safe place to open up and share. A safe place where you can just share whatever it is you're thinking and feeling, right? And because that's something that we need. So when you go to therapy or you get help and you're in that safe place, it's really, really easy for you to start opening up and sharing and being able to express what you're thinking and feeling. It comes out in your words. And when you're with a professional, it helps greatly. It helps greatly when you're with someone who can understand you. And I'm not saying that you got to run off and go get therapy or whatnot, but even if you can just be with someone who's willing to let you speak, that's the point I'm trying to get to. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to clean it up. You can just speak. Just let it out. I promise you're not as far off as you might think. Even if you're not used to sharing or expressing your feelings, the fact of the matter is, even though we've been conditioned that, we still think it up here. We still feel it. Just because someone says in society that we're not supposed to feel doesn't mean we don't feel. Doesn't mean we don't feel. All it means is it's all up here. And so we know what hurts. We know what it feels like to be alone. We know what it feels like to be abandoned. We know what it feels like to be neglected. We know what it feels like to experience all these things. But we just don't have a chance to articulate it. And so we need that safe space. And we as men need to eventually, what we need to do is stop keeping the elephant in the room and stop trying to be something that's impossible for us to be. This stoic, hard as a stone, don't feel anything. It's not realistic. That's not how we operate. That's not how we move at all. That's not realistic at all. What's realistic is that we do feel these things, and we need to understand, okay, how can I express my emotions? How can I do that? We need to be able to express what we're thinking and we're feeling and be able to process through it. And let me also say this, just because we feel it doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate. You might take something out of context. It might make you feel angry, but until you can start processing it in real time and stop and think and like, okay, this thing was just said. Right? Was that directed towards me? Should I be angry right now? Oh, it wasn't directed towards me. That's correct. So since it wasn't towards me, there's no need for me to be angry. We need to get to that point, because a real man is one who is not someone who's hiding his emotions. Right? And let me take a step back. I want to make sure I'm doing this the right way. I want to say real men, because if you're born with the XY chromosome, you are a man, period. Point blank, end of discussion. There are no fake men, or anything like that. You're either born a man or you're not, right? So if you have an XY chromosome, you're a man. All right. So I'm not going to use real man or anything like that. But I will say complete man. I will say that if you want to be a complete man, you have to be able to completely and totally integrate with everything that is you, all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your emotion. You have to learn how to convey that, how to talk about it. And I like to use two examples. One is, if you guys ever seen Iron Man or anything like that, you ever see, or any of those like sci-fi shows or movies where the guy's like in the center of a room and he has all these digital displays. And it's like he has the complete control of whatever he's controlling: space station, suit of armor, computer system, city, whatever it is, right? And so when it comes to that, right, when it comes to having that, right, that's like us being able to integrate all of our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, being articulated properly. That's what it's like on the inside. Another example I like to use is that of like a kung fu master. Now, see, a kung fu master is not one that's reactive. A kung fu master is not one who's on edge all the time or hyper vigilant or scared about his different environments or, always looking at, concerned about who's around him and being exposed or imposter. That's not what a kung fu master is. A kung fu master, what do? You've seen those old movies. They might walk with their hands behind their back, or they have the old wise beard or whatever the case may be, or they might be doing anything along those lines, right? Anything along those lines. And so when something comes up, they're able to respond to it, not react, right? Reaction, that's all impulse. That's not control. That's all impulse. But respond to it is control. We as men have to learn how to control our emotions and control and understand what they're telling us, the message that they're giving us. And I'm not going to go into all the details behind that. I have a whole video series about emotions if you want to check it out on YouTube. I think I have some on TikTok as well. If I don't, I'll make sure I get them up here. But long story short, we have to, if we want to be a complete man, we have to learn how to control our emotions. And what I'll also say is this: if you are in a man's life, right? If you have people in your life, you have a friend group or whatever, make sure you are a safe place. If you're a lady listening to this, make sure you are a safe place. That means, what does it mean to be a safe place? There's no judgment. There's no ridicule. You're not trying to solve this problem. You're just there. You validate. Hey, you're going through a hard time. That's tough. Hey, I understand why you're feeling that way. I understand why this is bothering you. That makes sense. Just being a safe place is enough to remove the elephant from the room. That's enough. Because I'm telling you, as I work with the men that I work with, and I'm just be a safe place, and they start opening up and sharing and talking about the things that are bothering them, their concerns and their fears, and the desire to be loved and considered, like it's all in there. And I'm not just talking about black men. I work with black men, white men, Hispanic men, Filipino men. I work with men from every single place, right? Asian men, all of them, right? And it's the same thing, right? These needs are in all of us. And so we as men, for one, got to make sure we stop policing each other when it comes to these emotions. Stop trying to say when someone's being weak or someone's being soft or they shouldn't be feeling that or whatever the case may be. No. We're allowed to feel whatever we're allowed to feel. Just be a safe place. Be the safe place that you want someone to be for you. Because that's literally how I live my life. I literally live my life by that. Because I know what it's like to not have anybody there. I know what it's like to be scared to open up. I know what it's like to feel like you're going to be judged. I get what that's like. So I make sure that I am making sure that I'm able to validate, build people up, be there with them, listen to them, empathize with them. I'm there so that they have that safe space. And I'm telling you right now, and especially when you start talking about like suicide and how people, because they feel there's nobody there that understands them or wants to understand them or that cares, or there's people there to use them, that they will take their own life because of that, because they don't feel there's a safe space for them to open up and share. So it is critical for us to make sure that we are a safe place. And when you start seeing that, when you start seeing being a safe place for these young men, being a safe place for our friends, being a safe place for our brothers and our fathers and our uncles, and even our grandparents. Because the thing is, there's a lot of times we get caught up with like, oh, they're old. They're not going to be responsive to this. They're old school, things like that. They have emotions too. They feel too. They hurt too. And so, I was working with another client one time. Again, parents old. I think his parents like in his 70s, father's in his 70s or something like that. And so he was talking about how there's a lot of conflict there, not between him. I'm going to go into all the details, but long story short, we ended up started talking. It's like, well, why don't you just try asking him questions about himself? Being a safe place for him. No judgment or anything like that. Just be a safe place for him and see what he's been experiencing, what he's been going through. And his father was receptive to that. His father started opening up and sharing things. And I promise you, like, we as men, they talk about like, oh, we don't want to talk. We don't want to open up. We don't want to share. That is not true. It's not that we don't want to. It's that there's never been a space for us to open up and share. because there's a concern that we are going to be torn apart if we do. We're going to be looked as weak if we do. So imagine what happens, and I don't have to imagine, but imagine what happens if you're that safe space for someone and they can come and talk to you and start opening up and sharing. They don't got to worry about you thinking bad about them. Like, imagine that. Imagine that. And I promise you right now, there are men in your life right now that are just looking for a safe place, a safe person to open up and share things with. It'll mean everything to them if you're able to do that. Everything. And so again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but long story short is what I'm trying to say about this topic as far as us keeping the elephant in the room. We need to not only throw the elephant out of the room, we also need to make sure we are being very vocal about, hey, I'm a safe place. And don't just say it, but be it, right? Be it in conversation. Because a lot of times, and I'll share this as well, a lot of times we as men will see people and we'll watch them and see how they talk about other people. So if you're trashing somebody else or tearing somebody else down or saying horrible things about somebody else, we're already going to say, yeah, that's not a safe place. That's not safe. Yeah. You know, again, a lot of us as men, we're looking for that safe place, right? And so if we're looking and seeing somebody who how their behavior is, and if their behavior is loving, and it's caring, and it's open, and it's on, then you're going to be surprised at how people start opening up to you. And again, it has nothing to do with me being a therapist. Let me also be very clear about this. This has absolutely nothing to do with me being a therapist. Nothing at all. I've been doing this long before I went to school, long before I got any degrees, long before I got any certifications or license or anything like that. I simply was a safe place for other men, and they would open up and share things. They would talk about things. They would talk about their concerns and their fears. And guess what? I would never judge them. I would never tear them down. I would never do anything like that because I know what it's like to be in that situation, in that place. And so I say all this to say, for all of us, right? For the men in your life, and the men in your friends group, if you're a guy and you see other men around you, be that safe place for other men. And then also be willing to open up and share as well once you find that safe space. If you're married and your wife is a safe space for you, open up and share with her, right? Share with her what you're experiencing, what you're going through. A lot of times we as men, we're scared to even open up and share with our wives because like, oh, I'm supposed to be strong and I'm supposed to be never share anything with her and never put that burden on her and things like that. Now, granted, I'm not saying if you've been through extreme trauma, now it's time to dump it all on your wife, right? That's going to be a lot for her to take, understandably, right? But if you're concerned about, man, the bills, man, I'm working so hard, I'm just not getting as many hours, and it's just, I feel overwhelmed, or I feel scared, or whatever the case may be, allow her to be there for you, one, and then two, wife, be there for him and not judgmental. Just be there to empathize with him. Encourage him. Hey, babe, it's going to be all right. We can get through this. Whatever the case may be. That's what we need to make sure we're doing. That goes a long way, a very, very long way, right? So I say all this to say, and I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here. You know, addressing the elephant in the room. We got to make sure we address the elephant in the room and kick the elephant out of the room. Right? We got to stop keeping it in the room, which is the lie that we as men don't feel or we shouldn't feel. We need to make sure we remove that from the room, right? And then we need to start being safe places and seeking safe places for us to open up and share. Right. And don't be concerned about how it comes out. Right. Don't be concerned about how it comes out. Just open up, share, and pour it out. And I promise you, if you have someone, you're with someone who's learning that knows how to listen, it'll all make sense. Because I guarantee, I'm telling you right now, as someone who's been doing that their whole life, it's always made sense. It's always, as they've talked, they shared, I wasn't confused. It's like, okay, well, I don't understand why it all made sense. Yeah, it feels like people are using me. Like I'm just here as a paycheck. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get it, right? Because you're not getting fed. There's no reciprocation. There's nothing like that. Or you're not being loved in the way you want to be loved. Or you haven't shared how you want to be loved, or whatever the case may be. And so what ends up happening is, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense as why you feel that way. Don't go to try to solve the problem. That's something else as well. There's a running joke like men just try to solve the problem. And a lot of times we do because that's how we be conditioned. But ultimately, hey, we don't have to solve the problem. Just let the person speak, right? And as men, we just speak, and it comes out. And a lot of times, and here's the beautiful part about it: a lot of times you don't even have to do anything. It's just being an open, safe, loving, caring space for the men in your life. Just being that, being able to validate with no judgment, just being that. A lot of times is enough. a lot of times that's enough. So I'll say that, guys, we got to make sure we're open up and sharing. We got to make sure we're able to control our emotions. And again, that'll probably be another live stream for another time about controlling emotions and things like that. But we got to be able to do that. We got to be able to make sure we're doing that, and then I'll be able to open up and share, and then be that safe space for the men in our lives. And I promise you, you have no idea the positive effect it will have on the men in your life by just being a safe place for them. Because it's something that it's a rare thing that we get, a very, very, very rare thing that we get. All right. So that's all I got for us today, guys. Again, I'll be doing these more often, but if you have any questions or anything like that, for all of you who came, I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. But if y'all ever need anything, please reach out. If you know someone that maybe could use some help, you reach out, send them my way. Again, I'm here to help as best as I possibly can. I do therapy in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I also do it in Florida. I'm licensed in both those states. But there's ways to help even if you're not in those states or if it's not therapy. So resources and all that stuff like that. So yeah, if you know a man in your life that you love, that you care about, that you think needs to hear this message, go ahead and send this to him. Or if you are someone that is obviously we're all in men's lives, but take this information and start putting it into practice right now. I promise you, it'll shock you. If there's a guy in your life who has not had a safe space, go ahead and try this. I promise it'll shock them. They'll be like, dang, I didn't think I would be able to do that. Right. And for those in relationships, it'll do wonders for your relationship as well. Wonders and wonders for your relationship. So that's all I got for you guys. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day. And I'll be back soon. And remember, you're not alone.